Welcome to the show, everybody. This is D Hap, where we cover everything, all sports and current events. On this show today, I got a great friend of mine. Been known him 35 years. We played football together in the trenches, and he's the biggest Packer fan that I know. Welcome E to the show.
What's going on with you, boy?
Nothing much, man. We're gonna hop right into it, okay?
Hey, let's hop
I knew you
into it.
was a I knew you was a military brass baby,
Oh
and
yeah.
and you traveled and stuff,
Yep.
migrated to St. Louis, but with
hmm
so many teams in the area, you had
hmm
St. Louis Cardinals, St.
Right.
Louis Rams, you had Kansas City Chiefs. What
hmm
chose you to be a Green Bay Packer fan?
All right. Let me start off in the beginning. As a little boy, I'm gonna shock you with this one. As a kid, I was a huge Cowboy fan. Huge Cowboy fan. Couldn't tell me
Wow.
nothing. Born in Texas, so I migrate back to the home state, and I was a Cowboy fan back in the 70s. Baby, man, Cowboys was everything. They battling with Pittsburgh and battling with Denver. So naturally, I gravitated towards Roger Staubach, Tony Dorsett, Hollywood Henderson, them type of players. So rocked with Dallas for all of my little childhood, little boy stuff. As I
Hmm.
got into my double digit years, 10, 12, 13, I'm still a Cowboy fan. And then this one event happened, man, that pushed me away from them Dallas Cowboys. And that was the catch, dog. When Dwight Clark caught that ball from Montana in the back of the end zone, man, it hurt my soul as a little kid. and and I said, I can't do this no more, man. I can't do it. Now, more background on leading up to this Green Bay thing. My family was always from St. Louis. So even though we travel in Germany, North Carolina, Texas, we moving around as a military kid, my dad and my mom were huge Cardinal fans. So
Okay.
of course, we follow the Cardinals as well, but I was that Dallas kid. So when I chose to say that, I'm done with Dallas, I'm not gonna rock with them no more. Don't
Hmm.
like this squad, I'm gonna move on from this Danny White era. So
Okay.
then I started rooting for the Cardinals. We back in St. Louis now. So now I'm rooting for the Cardinals, OJ Anderson, Neil Lomax, Roy Green, them type of
Yeah.
players. But the Cardinals were trash, dog. Just to be honest.
Right.
They were always trash. So
Right.
now I done went from this super high of this Cowboy team that was in the Super Bowl every couple years. I think they went to like 5 Super Bowls in the 70s. They might have only won two, but they went to a bunch of them. So they was America's team. So now I'm
Right.
rooting for the Cardinals, the local boys, and they are not America's team. And
Right.
then, that carried from maybe, I think that was like 83, 82 when he made that catch. So 83 on, I'm rocking with the Cardinals till about, oh man, it had to be probably 88 when we came out of school. Cardinals
Okay.
moved on. They left St. Louis, went to Arizona, hurt you again, dog. Now you done lost your team. And it
Yeah.
and it hurt the city. The city was mad. Bill Will just kind of packed up overnight and rode up out of here in the moving vans. And so then I'm thinking, screw the Cardinals, dog. I'm not gonna root for them no more. Even though a lot of people still rock with them. So now
Yeah.
I'm out there looking for a team. I always liked James Lofton, but James Lofton was paired up back then with I think it was Land Dickey, man. Land Dickey was yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But
Right.
he
Right.
was a Packer and he was a brother and he was out there doing some great things. So kind of latched on to James Lofton. So I done went from one bad team to another because Green Bay was terrible in the 80s. But
Correct.
then maybe 3, 4 seasons in, all of a sudden you get Brett Favre coming along. And then
Yeah.
Brett Favre comes along, you get Reggie White coming on the team, you start getting these receivers that are catching the ball. And so by then, well, let me take that back a little bit. 89 was the year that Don Matskowski took over as a quarterback. And I
Okay.
don't know, I like the name the Magic Man that they called him. So so
Right.
so so now I'm rooting for James Lofton and I'm rooting for Don Matskowski. James Lofton had moved on, but I'm staying with the Packers. So I'm rooting for John Matskowski. Couple more bad years, and that's when Brett Favre and them start coming along, and the other players that I mentioned. So now they're
Okay.
starting to put a nice team together. Then you got the Mikes coming in coaching, the Mike Holmgrens, the Mike Shanahan. You get just you get all these coaches, man, that are putting these teams together. Then Brett Favre takes them to a Super Bowl. Brett Favre wins a Super Bowl. Now they're starting to get players that didn't want to play in Green Bay are starting to come to Green Bay. So now they're putting Antonio Freeman's out there, Andre Rison's out there. This is my squad. I'm rocking with
Right.
them now. I done been through the battle with them when they was bad. They done got up to win the championship, and now they maintaining. So I rock
Right.
with them all through the Brett Favre era. Wasn't really a Brett Favre person, but I like Brett Favre being my quarterback because Brett Favre was
Right.
getting the job done, constantly. I never forget that
Mhm.
game when his pops passed away and he went crazy on Monday night, threw for like
Right.
5 touchdowns and 400 yards or something crazy. But long story short, that made me a Packer fan. Brett Favre, Reggie White,
Yeah.
Minister Defense, favorite player of all time in any sport. Even when he was an Eagle, I love Reggie White because he was, I was a defensive player. You were a defensive player. Reggie
Right.
White brought it every day. Reggie White brought it.
Right.
There was only so many players like him in the league, and that's what made him a legend. And when he went to Green Bay, that solidified my love for the Packers. So ever since then, man, my entire adult life, I've rooted for nobody but Green Bay. Let me take that back. I did root for the Rams when they came to St. Louis, but they were like a
Yeah.
secondary root.
Okay. Okay.
If they play Green Bay, I'm rocking with Green Bay. But I did like to see the Rams go from trash to the penthouse, when they won that Super
Yeah.
Bowl against Tennessee. That was nice. And it did the city some good. We needed that, coming off of that Bill Bidwill crap. But then you
Right.
get Stan Kroenke doing the same thing, taking teams and running with them. That's
Yeah.
another thing that drove me to Green Bay is that they're owned by the people, stockholders own them. Green Bay ain't
Okay.
going nowhere. That team's gonna
Okay.
be there for until to the end of time, unless something drastic happens. But yeah, they're stockholder owned, and then you got all the iconic things about Green Bay. Lambeau Field, man, one of the most iconic fields, frozen tundra. You got the Lombardi Trophy, which is what everybody plays for, named after one of their iconic coaches. Then after Brett Favre, you had Aaron Rodgers. Don't like Aaron Rodgers the person, love Aaron Rodgers the quarterback.
Right. Right.
Because like Brett Favre, he got it done. It's just at the end of that thing with Aaron Rodgers, man, he got real selfish to me. He just didn't want to help Jordan Love when they did draft Jordan Love. Now they did draft Jordan Love and didn't kind of let Aaron Rodgers in on it. But
Right.
hey, team player, man, you don't last forever. And that
Yeah.
replacement is always coming up behind you. So he chose not to try to help him transition, which later on he became cool. But
Okay.
he wanted to be the man, and that's why they ended up losing Devontae Adams. He didn't want to take no
Right.
cut in the contract, and you losing great players, and it's hurting the team. And I was ready to see him go. So when they traded Aaron Rodgers and got them draft picks and moved Jordan Love into the starting spot, man, I was ecstatic,
All right.
dog.
Well,
I
we're
was
gonna
like,
hold
let's
that
do
before we get
this.
into the Jordan Love
Yes.
situation. We're gonna hold that.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
We're gonna take this in from Anthony.
Cool.
He got a statement. He said, Ehart, you are like most Green Bay fans that turned on Aaron Rodgers because he didn't bring them enough Super Bowls, even though he was constantly taking you guys to the playoffs. What you say about that?
No, I never turned on Aaron Rodgers because he was my quarterback, and you rock with your quarterback. The thing that I didn't like about Aaron Rodgers is that he became selfish over time, and he started to look out for himself as opposed to looking out for the team. But as far as not going to Super Bowls and things, hey, Aaron Rodgers went, he won one. Brett Favre went, he won one, he lost one. They kept the team relevant and they kept the team in the winning tradition, which creates a good culture for the team. I love Aaron Rodgers, man. I never talk bad about him as a football player, but off the field, Aaron Rodgers was doing things that was contrary to the success of the team. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be a team player in football. And I know that's hard to say about adults that's getting paid to play a game, because it is about the money, it is about the longevity of your career. But man, if you're on a team that's got Jordy Nelsons on it, and you've got the players around you, the Dorsey Levens, and you can go to Super Bowls and you can win them. Just because you didn't get back, only one team can win it every year. It's just like this
Right.
game we just watched a little while ago. Everybody's gonna lose except one team. So you
Hmm.
can't be mad about not getting there. You just want to be in the fight, and that's
Yeah.
what it comes down to. You got to be one of them seven that get in the fight, and then you go from there with a whole new season in the playoffs. But yeah, I never turned on Aaron Rodgers.
All right. Next question. Why do you think Green Bay travels so well? I always wondered how they got such a big following and they travel really
Yeah.
well. What do you think is the cause behind that as a fan?
I think the winning that Green Bay has had in the last 20 years, you got to think about it. They've had two generational quarterbacks back to back, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. They had all the success back in the 60s with Bart Starr and players like that. I think it's just that when people latch on to that team and they were winning like they were doing in the 90s and the 2000s and the 20 teens and up to now, it's just that always a good product on the field. You're never going to be out of the fight. And I think people travel like that. Now, is it like the 49ers or the Raiders or, teams like that that also travel well? I'd say they on that par because I've been to games in Atlanta. I've been to game in Tennessee, and you outnumber the fans in noise value, that you're
Right.
going to play against. And that's a good feeling. And Green Bay Packer fans, man, I've never run into a bad one. I really haven't.
Sure.
Even with the opposing players, even with the opposing teams, it's in jest, it's not in malice, never no arguments of I'm gonna fight you over this. It's just like, hey, I'm
Right.
better than you, and I'm showing you
Right.
on the field. So yeah,
Right.
they travel well.
Okay, we're gonna. Aaron had a follow up. He said, "But can you blame Aaron though when the general manager was being unprofessional and refusing to listen to Aaron to draft defense? He meant a defense to help him."
Right. No, I don't blame Aaron for that. And I had no malice towards Aaron for that because they were being unprofessional. And they should have told Aaron Rodgers about who they were going to bring in and have him help become the next quarterback. And Green Bay handled that situation terribly. They really did. And he didn't have a whole lot of defensive help out there, and he was still winning games. Aaron Rodgers is a legend, man. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame, and he's going to go down as one of the top at least 10 quarterbacks of all time, because he's got the numbers to prove it and back it up.
Right.
You're not going to hear nothing bad about Aaron Rodgers as the football player from me.
Right. And that was going to be a follow up to that because that actually was going to be my
Hmm.
next question. How do you think
Cool.
they handled the transition for Jordan Love? Excuse me, from Jordan Love, and do you think it really was time to bring Jordan Love into the starting role?
I don't. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I love Jordan Love. I'm a big Jordan Love fan. I hope he has a great, long-lasting career. But at the time when they drafted Jordan Love, they needed defense, and I didn't understand that pick. In the first round of a draft, you going for a quarterback when you got Aaron Rodgers sitting there already. You can hold off for that for another year. But I think they wanted to put Aaron Rodgers had gotten so much power in Green Bay, so much leverage. I think they wanted to put that spook on him, Doug. Like, hey, you may not be here long. And I think Aaron Rodgers responded like a normal human would and was like, hey, well, I'm not finna train my replacement. You know what I'm saying? And Jordan
Right.
Love had to sit those 3 years, but sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, whether he helped him or not, Jordan Love picked up a lot from Aaron Rodgers. And you can see it on the field. He's got a lot of his mannerisms, He's just got to tighten up some of them passes that he kind of lay out there, quit throwing
Right.
off that back foot all the time. So but yeah, Aaron Rodgers he was good. He's a good Packer.
Okay. How do you think? Uh, well, let me rephrase that. How do fans, Green Bay fans, perceive
Mhm.
Jordan Love in Green Bay?
Oh my God, man. Now that now that's a question right there because I am literally in these chat rooms right now, man, following that game that just happened. Yeah, they lost to the Eagles, man. You can't win them all, and they look
Right.
bad doing it, bad on offense. But you had injuries that played a part in that. You can't fumble the opening kickoff to the number one defense in the league, and the number five offense in the league, the team that has the worst percentage of scoring in the first quarter, you give them the ball at the 20-yard line, a freebie, and then they punch
Right.
it in 3 plays later. Now you're behind the eight ball. You're down seven. You're on the road. The crowd is amped because this is what they want. They want to blow out Green Bay, get rid of them, move on to the
Right.
next one. So now you're in the hole. Now you're making mistakes. Now you're missing field goals. Now you're overthrowing players. It was a bad outing today, man. But yeah, that was a rough game. That was a tough one to swallow. And even though they played like they did on offense, they were in it. Still, it's
Right.
crazy.
But
3 turnovers
but
first half.
but the question is, how do they perceive him in Green Bay?
In Green Bay, you get a lot of fans that want to rock with Jordan Love. They see the talent, they see the arm strength, and they know that given an offensive line that'll keep people from having them running up out of there all the time, he could do some things. He showed it last year. You know, they went on that run, got in the playoffs, put a whooping on Dallas. I think they hung 48 on Dallas in the first round as a 7th seed. Same situation this year, playing the NFC East champion, 7th seed against a 2 seed, and you just ran into a buzzsaw. You know, it's not that Philadelphia did a lot to beat you. You did a lot to beat yourself. You know, all them turnovers. You take that first turnover away, you got a whole different ball game, and that's just
Hmm.
the fact. But the fans and the Green Bay fans that I run into, a lot of them are still stuck on Aaron Rodgers, believe it or not, man. They
Hmm.
just love that man. And I just don't, dog. I see that you got it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not that I don't love Aaron Rodgers. It's that Aaron Rodgers is 40, dog. It's time to move on, you know. And he wasn't having the greatest success, you know, as far
Right.
as they get to the playoffs, just like they do now, and then they be one and done. You know, the 49ers was his kryptonite. They just
Yeah.
couldn't beat him. And this year, 49ers ain't in there. So I'm smiling big time. And then you run into a team that beat you the opening game of the season. They lost six
Yeah.
games this year. Five of them games was to, well, seven with the game today, but two to Philadelphia, two to Detroit, 14-2, two to Minnesota, 14-2. And we're not even gonna count that Bears loss because the Bears, you know, they're the Bears.
Yeah. Oh, that's
They
going to
just
bring me into the next conversation.
all
How
right.
real is the rivalry between Green Bay and the Bears? I always see a
Oh,
lot of stuff
it's
in the
crazy.
chat rooms when you guys talk about it. And I just, from a Green Bay perspective, what's the rivalry like?
The rivalry is real, man. And when Aaron Rodgers kept beating the Bears and they got them 10 straight wins over the Bears, you know, and that Jordan Love continued it last year, man, them Bears fans was hot. So I'm in this chat group, NFC North trash talk group, you know. So it's got Detroit fans, it's got Minnesota, Chicago, Green Bay. Man, when I tell you it's Chicago versus Green Bay versus everybody, you know,
You right?
constantly. And when you go to Soldier Field to see a Green Bay Bears game, man, you could beat the Bears 52-0. You better get out of there before that zero hit the clock because they will clown, dog. They will clown. But man, it's a good rivalry, and I think it's a long run. I think it's the longest rivalry in NFL, actually. You know, as far as
Okay.
number of games played. But Green Bay got such a big lead over them in the last 2 decades. Bears ain't never catching up. We're gonna leave the Bears down here. Bear down. We push
I was
them
just
down there.
wondering about the rivalry, and I just want to ask that question. I'm gonna bring this question in because the
Sure.
one Anthony's asking is one that I wanted to ask and bring him into the fold too. Does this mean you guys think Green Bay might move on from Matt LaFleur and go to a younger coach? Well, LaFleur is pretty
Hmm.
young. You can't go much younger
Yeah,
than him, can
LaFleur's pretty young. And I don't
you?
think they'll move on from LaFleur. But what they do need to do, and this is just my opinion, LaFleur don't need to be calling the plays, man. They need to get a true offensive coordinator in there to singling the plays in because LaFleur calls some plays sometimes that are just mind-boggling. Even tonight, you know, they went for it on it was fourth or third and eight, I believe, at the end towards the end of the game, and they ran the ball with Jacobs. And I'm thinking, why are you running into that line when they got 8 men in the box? You know, you audible out of that, or you time out if you have to. And just this was my key to this game today going in, and this got something to do with Matt LaFleur.
Okay.
Philadelphia gives up the middle of the field for small increments, 15, 20 yards. They don't want you to go over the top. So they'll get that good pass rush coming. They'll leave that center open. And then when you hit a player in the middle, they converge, you know, and make you keep drive. They make you take sustained drives. I didn't understand why they didn't go into that game with a two tight end set in mind constantly because you got Musgrave and you got Kraft, both
Hmm.
athletic tight ends, and both of them have great hands on them. Man, hit them tight ends. Oh, make them play them tight ends so they can't just keep bum rushing Jordan Love because that's what happened, man. They couldn't when that guard went down today. It was game was pretty much over. They put those two kids out there that hadn't played very much, and man, it was penalty after penalty, holding penalty after holding penalty. When you do get a first down, they bring it back because you hold, you know. So it was
Right.
rough, but. but yeah, I didn't understand the game plan that they had going. They kept the game close. I don't know how, but the announcer
Right.
even said at one point it feels like it's 75 to nothing. I felt all of that. I felt all of
Right.
that because that's what it felt like to me. It was like it was 80 to nothing out there. But you look at the scores, 10-0 at half. You still in the game. Then you hoping and praying this defense don't collapse in the second half, and they didn't. They balled. They held Saquon. Well, held Saquon to 70 something yards for the longest before he broke that one. He would have scored at the end of the game and he took it down. That's class. And
Right.
but you shut down them receivers, man. And they got some receivers on that team. They got Brown, and them dudes can run it up on you, big plays. And Green Bay
Right.
shut that down. They held them to throwing it to Goddard. Goddard got his, but everybody else got pretty much closed down. So
Right.
they had a good defensive game plan. It's just the offense wasn't there. And then when you have all those mistakes, man, and if that field goal, you don't miss that a 38-yard field goal, that's pretty much a given. And the kicker they have, he's been good since they picked him back up. He's been pretty solid and pretty trustworthy on field goals, but then you go out there and miss that one, But
Right.
things happen, man. Everything you
Right.
can't win them all. And this game just kind of from that opening kickoff, it kind of gave you that feel of it's going to be an uphill battle, and it was.
Okay, this one here, I'm gonna take this question because this is kind of
Uh-huh.
interesting. It says Green Bay is having sort of the same issues that Miami is slowly starting to realize. You
Yes.
can't have your head coach he meant to say plays. I don't think he meant police. You need a
Yeah,
true offensive coordinator. And
I
yeah,
agree 100%.
I agree 100% too because the Dolphins, it's kind of like yeah, they need to get that clipboard out his hand.
Yes,
Get
they
that.
do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They do. And
Um,
they need to get it out of LaFleur's hand.
yeah. Uh, who do you think is the greatest quarterback in Green Bay history? Let's talk about that.
Oh man, I would say in my lifetime, I would give it to Brett Favre because Brett Favre was amazing to watch, man. Brett Favre wasn't the most talented person in the world, but Brett Favre was a smart quarterback, and he got the ball downfield. That man threw 50 yards on the air, in the air with it. Now, my Green Bay fan from back in the day before my time may say Bart Starr. Bart Starr is a
Hmm.
legend in the NFL, but I don't have any experience of watching Bart Starr. My experience of quarterbacks would be Don Metchkowski, Lynn Dickey, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and I put Aaron Rodgers on that Mount Rushmore with him. If we had to do a Mount Rushmore, them three would definitely be on there: Bart Starr, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. I don't know who that fourth one's going to be right now, but since I like the Magic Man, I'm going to put him on there.
Okay. And what was Reggie White's, or what do you think Reggie White impact on Green Bay was?
In all honesty, man, I think Reggie White showed the African American players in the NFL that it's okay to go to Green Bay and play and be a baller and that we can win there. Because with it being a smaller city, small town, Green Bay, a lot of the African American athletes had no interest in Green Bay. It's just the
Mhm.
I shouldn't say it that way because you did have black players there, but it was just like not the most popular place to go play. Reggie
Mhm.
White got up there, they started winning, and he was bringing other black players to Green Bay to play. And I think it impacted the culture up there, man, as far as, you know, we can go up there, we can win, man. We can go up there and be winners. It's certain cities, Green Bay probably being the smallest of them all, where players just you have to be comfortable to play there. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know the dynamics of the 70s and 80s. All I can tell you is about the 90s and 2000s when I was a fan of theirs, and I just saw the change in the culture up there. And you started getting a ton of those players like that, that were up there balling. The Dorsey Levens and the Aaron Jones down the road,
Yeah.
and Amon Green, players like that. And then you can mix them in with the Clay Matthews and the Reggie Whites and the Charles Woodson. He had a big impact on Green Bay up there.
Yeah.
And I just, as a child, man, as a young black man, you want to see that representation on your team. Not saying it wasn't there before, but
Right.
when a small town like that starts to get that notoriety of winning and you can see yourself in some of those players, I think it goes a long way, man. I really do.
So do you think that because I heard grumblings too about African Americans not not really wanting to go there. I don't know if it was
Right.
true or not because I'm not in the locker
Hmm.
room, but
Exactly.
I mean, usually where smoke is fire, you know. So,
Right.
um, when players before Reggie White got there, do you
Hmm.
think it was some truth to the rumor that African Americans didn't want to really go there and play?
Now
I mean,
I
of course
heard
they
this.
want to go there because they're
Yeah,
going to get paid,
get
but
paid
you know they're
exactly.
not happy
Right.
being there. That might be the
And
right word to use.
I can't say with 100% surety because I don't know either. Like you say, we're not in the locker room, but it's just you hear things like that. It's always been said that way, especially back in the 80s. But you got to look at the other point of that. If you're a college player and you come out, you play for a team for 3, 4 years, you're a free agent. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Green Bay or do you want to go to LA? Do you want to go to Green Bay or do you want to go to San Diego or Oakland or Miami?
Facts.
You
Yeah.
know, it's just New York. You got all these big cities with lots of things to do, or you can go to Green Bay. I'm curious how many players played in Green Bay that lived in Green Bay.
Mm,
I don't know. I don't know.
yeah.
But when it comes to aesthetics, as far as things outside of football, what else is there in Green Bay to offer? Now, don't get me wrong, I love Green Bay. I love the city. I love the stadium. I love the way the franchise is ran. But as far when it comes down to why players want to go there and don't, there's a lot of factors that come into play. And I think
Mm,
even in basketball today, like right now, there's players who rather go to LA where they can get that huge endorsement outside of the sport, because of so much activity around LA, than
right.
go to a small town like Portland. You know what I'm saying? Even though
Right. Yeah.
Portland's on the rise, but it's just I don't know. It's a lot goes into that thought process. I don't want to say it was like racially motivated because we don't
Right.
know,
Right.
but like you said, where there's smoke, there's fire sometimes. And I just think players just had they didn't understand what was in Green Bay for them, until Green Bay, especially when they were losing. In the 80s, you ain't trying to go to Green Bay. You ain't trying to come to St. Louis either, because they're not going anywhere. They just stagnant franchises. As Cleveland, I shouldn't have
Right.
said that. Take it back.
Well, what's next for where do they go next, Green Bay, after this loss?
All right, Green Bay, what we got to do? Green Bay needs to shore up that offensive line. They need to get a good edge rusher, man, because I'm sure you watched the game today. Man, Jalen
Yeah.
Hurts was standing in that pocket forever, multiple times. Just the receivers weren't getting open, but he was standing in that pocket forever, man, doing 3, 4 check downs. You can't do that, man. You got to get on that quarterback quick. Those front
Right.
four of the Eagles were all over Jordan Love. He had 3, 4 seconds to get rid of that ball every time he got the ball in his hand. And that's what you need because if you leave a quarterback back there to sit, somebody's gonna get open. Like that very first touchdown, dude standing in the back end zone by himself. But
Right.
Jordan Love out there running for his life, but Jalen Hurts, he sat in that pocket and he perused the whole field before he threw the ball to that dude. He perused the
Right.
whole field before he hit Goddard. And that's the luxury of having the best offensive line. I mean, the Eagles have 3 Pro Bowlers on the front line. So
Right.
it's you need to get that caliber of player, whether it's a Orlando Pace type player, that's going to protect your quarterback. You need that, and you need at least 2 of them, one on each side of the ball, so that if Jordan Love has ample time, Jordan Love's he's gonna cook because Jordan Love gets the ball out there. He's got a plethora of wide receivers to throw it to. I mean, look how many of them got hurt today, and you still got Heath out there. You got Melton out
Right.
there. You got Wicks out there. So they got the depth at wide receiver, and all them guys. What they do need to do is shore up catching the ball because they drop a lot of passes. Even the
Yeah.
big boys, Watson and Reed and Dobbs, they drop a lot of balls, but a lot of these Green Bay fans want to put that on the quarterback all the time. Now Jordan Love does have some erratic throws. he'll,
Yeah.
he'll throw a he'll that pick six he threw when we was in Vegas to Detroit. Oh my God, man. That killed that game. It just killed it. And then you gotta dig yourself out of these holes. Green Bay got to stop doing that. They got to shore that defense up. They played tonight, man. And Green Bay's defense is ranked number 5 overall this season. People don't know that, because
Right.
they don't get a lot of press as far as defense because they
Right.
give up some big plays. But I think if they sure that offensive line, they have the offensive weapons. They got Musgrave, they got Kraft at tight end, they have Watson, they have Dobbs, they have Reed. Then you got Wicks, Melton, Heath as wide receiver. You got Jacobs, man, and big props to Jacobs tonight because Jacobs showed up. He came ready to
Yeah,
play, and he is the heartbeat of that team. Man, that man's been there one season, and I remember a lot of Packer fans in these chat rooms, and that don't give you the gauge of the whole Packer nation, but a lot
right,
of these chat room people were angry that they let Aaron Jones go. And but they were getting the guy that led the league in rushing just 2, 3 years ago, and he's younger. You know what I'm saying? Give a man a chance. They
right.
try to run you out of town before you even take that first snap. Jacob showed up this year, the entire season. Jacob showed
Mm,
up. So big ups to Jacobs. Next year AJ Dillon will be back there with him. Maybe, if they don't cut him. But you put them two back there, them wide receivers, them tight ends, Jordan Love. Give Jordan Love one or two solid offensive linemen. Man, that team's gonna be a problem. They're gonna be a problem anyway for a long time because they just have talent and they're not under
right,
contract pressure yet. Another 2 years at least. But the defense. You didn't have Jair Alexander out there. He shut down, man. Jair shut down. You had
right,
McKinney, who was Jacob's teammate at Alabama. They picked him up from the Giants, put him back there at cornerback. That boy showed out this year. Led the
right,
league in interceptions to the last game of the season. So they have the talent and the players. Now they got to lock them down, and then they just have to add that edge rusher. Maybe a solid one more linebacker. The linebackers like Rashawn, they're coming along, but maybe
yeah,
one solid linebacker and then two offensive linemen. I think they can do that in the draft. I really do. Between the
right,
draft and free agency, and a lot of teams fell off this year, man. The Cowboys aren't in the playoffs. The 49ers aren't in the playoffs. Them are
right,
regulars, teams that always get there. Green Bay was in the playoffs 2 years in a row with Jordan Love, 2 year starter. So it's only up that I see from them, you know.
right. Okay, this next question here.
Mhm.
It says, does Green Bay have enough draft capital or to trade up to get a dual Carter for Penn State?
Oh man, that's a good question. To be honest with you, I don't know, but I don't know that you have to have Abdul Carter for Penn State. Like I said, two good offensive linemen, linebacker, edge rusher, and you good to go. And you don't have to have Abdul Carter to get that. You can get that elsewhere in the draft, or you can sign free agents. There's quite a few
Yeah.
people that'll be available this year.
He a
You
stud
can
though.
work it.
He
Yeah, he is
definitely
a
a
stud.
stud.
Look,
Uh,
trust me, I'll be happy if they had him, but I don't think but I
you don't
don't
think
think you're
giving up
gonna
draft
trade the
capital
no,
be the
no, I
best
don't
route
I don't
to?
I don't. I don't.
Okay, that's interesting. Now,
Yeah.
is there anything going on with the stadium itself? You think there'll always be an outdoor stadium because of the simple
Yeah.
fact it's not many outdoor stadiums left in the NFL. Then that
Yeah,
I think they're all in the north, aren't they? The
yeah,
ones that's
pretty
left.
much. Lambeau is iconic, and Lambeau ain't going nowhere. They just gonna keep on renovating it
Oh,
until
you think
till the wheels fall off of
so?
Stadium is dope, and it's in the middle of a little neighborhood, man. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, and they
So
do stadium tours and stuff. It's
is it
nice.
a tradition to shovel snow, or is it something that people?
It
I mean, I
is.
always wondered that, you know.
Yeah, they bring fans in and have them shovel off them benches and shit. It's pretty
Okay.
wild. But Buffalo do it too. It just
Yeah.
gives them, to me, when you play in a stadium like that, it's open air, it's the elements, it's football, man. The frozen tundra, boy, it take a whole lot to get out there on a regular basis and play in them elements. Like
Right.
like us. I'm trying to go to these games in January and I can't get no sidekicks. So
Right. Right. Right.
don't nobody want to be out there, unless we go into
Right.
Miami or somewhere. So, but yeah,
Right.
that a snow game, man, them foul weather games, it just gives them that little edge, that extra edge to know that we play in this. This is what we do. A
Right.
team like the LA Rams got to travel here. They looking like, damn, it's 18 degrees out here. What's up?
Yeah. Right.
But a lot of that is mental too, man, because you got to think these players play college ball, and they've played in
Right.
outdoor stadiums, they've played in elements, but I don't know. I think it just gives them a mental edge to have that outdoor element stadium like that. Even the Browns, man, when they play in snow weather, they up it a notch. It's just
Right.
what they do, ground and pound, go to the ground
Okay.
with it.
I want to go back to Jordan Love, and
Uh-huh.
Do you think, as a Packer fan, most people still want Aaron Rodgers there, or are they okay with Jordan Love being there? I know Aaron
I'm like,
Rodgers is gone, but
yeah,
I just the perception, especially after a loss like this.
right. I'm gonna answer that two ways. No, I
Okay,
don't think they want Aaron Rodgers still there. But at the same time, they compare everything Jordan Love does to Aaron Rodgers because
okay,
he's not at that Aaron Rodgers level yet. But if you look at his numbers in his first year, they're damn near identical to Aaron Rodgers. They're damn
yeah,
near identical to Brett Favre.
right,
And it's just I think, and I'm a Packer fan, but I think
right,
Packers fans have been spoiled having 20 years of great quarterback.
right,
20 years of great quarterbacking. So if you're not Lamar Jackson, I had some dude tell me 20 minutes before we started this that Jordan Love needs to be more like Lamar Jackson. How many Lamar Jacksons are there in the NFL? There's one. There's one.
right,
He
right,
said Lamar Jackson runs the ball and he throws it. I said, there's one Lamar Jackson. And that's why he's a
right,
two-time MVP. Everybody
right,
can't do that. And Jordan Love will take off if he needs to, but at what cost? You
right,
don't want your quarterback getting broke up constantly. Everybody wants
right,
these dual quarterbacks, man, that can run, can throw. That's short-lived, dog. Yeah, unless you're
right,
exceptional like Lamar Jackson, that's a good way to not have a quarterback. Then you'll
yeah,
see Willis in there. They're yelling for Willis to replace Jordan Love at
yeah,
halftime today. And I'm thinking, are you serious?
yeah,
Are you
yeah,
serious?
yeah. That's a
Will
short-minded people.
It is very short-minded. But the bulk of the people they understand, hey, this is a young team. For the second year in a row, they're the youngest team in the playoffs. Last year they were the youngest team ever in the playoffs. This year they're the second youngest team ever in the playoffs, only to last year's team. So, you
Mhm.
got to let these kids grow, man. And as they grow, that culture will kick in, that camaraderie. Jordan Love was practicing with these kids, in the offseason back in July and June, before camps was even really kicking in, because they wanted
Right,
to get routes down, timing, things like that. That goes a long way. And I think they'll grow together. Now, eventually, you're going to start having some contracts come and people are going to want to leave. There's really not a true number one in Green Bay. Watson is a deep threat, but
right,
Reed can also get downfield and catch the ball. Dobbs is your bigger receiver. So, he's a lot of sideline passing. Wicks comes in and he contributes. But they don't have a true number one. And I kind of like it that way because when Devontae Adams was there with Aaron Rodgers, what
mhm,
did teams do? They throw two people on Devontae Adams, try to take him out of the game, and now you forced to run Aaron Jones constantly.
right,
But when you have three receivers and a tight end that are capable of getting downfield and getting the ball and punching it in, who are you gonna double? And if you
right,
double this man, then this man's gonna get off on you.
right,
It's just unfortunate that Watson, tore his ACL last week in Chicago. That was terrible. And then you had Dobbs get knocked out of the game today, concussion protocol. Then you had Reed hurt his shoulder today. It's just the injuries piled up, and you're already fighting uphill. Like I say, you're playing number one defense in the league. They're at home, they're amped. They're already thinking down the road to Detroit and going to Super Bowl. That's kind of where everybody's placing it. So Green Bay was out there with house money today, just like they were last year with Dallas. You don't have nothing to lose. People don't expect you to win. The point
mhm,
spread flew up to 5.5 before kickoff,
yeah,
and they did what they did, with Jalen Hurts out there. The Eagles are formidable, man, and they're top to bottom formidable. They're probably the
right,
most well put together team in the playoffs, and I'm talking AFC and NFC because they have the offensive weapons, they have the defensive weapons, and they can shut you down and they can put points on the board. It's just what is Jalen Hurts going to do? He threw
right,
for like 38 yards in the first half today. They just refuse to pass the ball, but you don't have to when you got Saquon Barkley back there.
right,
Saquon Barkley's gonna run it 4 quarters, dog. He's gonna run it four
right,
quarters, whether they're winning or losing, because he can break it. He can
right.
break it. And in all honesty, man, if I had to see one player win a championship this year, it would be Saquon Barkley because he's a
Okay,
class act. Saquon is a class act. I was glad to see him get out of the Giants where he was being wasted in New York. It was just and I can't believe they let him go to a rival team, in the division, and then
right,
I don't know. I just like to see good stories like that, good players that are team players, and he's out there doing his thing, you know. And man, rushed for 2,000 yards this year. He's in the MVP conversation. Probably won't get it because running backs hardly ever do. But you
Right.
know, the season was dope, and he's continuing it. He rushed for 119 quiet yards today. 119. It's
Okay.
crazy.
Got a question, and this is an interesting one. It says, most underrated player on the defense in Packer history, because a lot of people always talk about Reggie White. So, who do you think was the most underrated player in
Oh man.
Packer history? That's interesting.
That is interesting, man. There were some great players on defense. You had Charles Watson was really good. You had
Leroy?
AJ Hawk was really good. Yeah, Leroy Butler was really good. You had Clay Matthews was really good. You know, so Green Bay's had some. I think the reason people talk about Reggie White because he was like an all-time great. Reggie White
Yeah.
is like on the all-time NFL team, not just the Pro
Right.
Bowl team, you know. So he was a shutdown. You know, he had his better years with the Eagles, you know, putting 17, 18 sacks up for a season where he was doing 11, 12 with Green Bay, but he didn't have to with Green Bay because he had
Mm.
players around him that would, you know, that also were filling in that role and didn't have to be that sole player. So I don't know who would be the most underrated all time. Charles Woodson. That's who I meant. Charles Woodson, not Watson. Charles
Okay.
Woodson. You know, he was a great player, man. Desmond Howard was a great player. He was more
Yeah.
special teams, but shit, he won an MVP in a Super Bowl. Who does that
Yeah. Yeah.
on a kick
So,
returner?
what is your most memorable game that you've watched either in person, on TV, stream, wherever? What is your most memorable game?
I would say that Monday night game when Brett Favre put all them touchdowns up when his dad passed away because they had
Mm,
he wasn't even gonna play that game. I'm not sure who they played. I want to say it was Minnesota, but he went
mhm.
out there and killed it, man. You know, just emotional as can be, and he went out there throwing bomb after bomb, and then they were running under them balls and catching them. They were playing for Brett, and it was just I don't know, man. To me, it was just one of those things. I would say between that game and that Super Bowl when they beat Pittsburgh, you know, when Aaron Rodgers and then went out there and beat Pittsburgh because that was a good game. Also, they weren't expected. The game was expected to be close, but Pittsburgh expected to win. Roethlisberger and them, they just had all them receivers on that team that year. Who did they have out there with them? Right, he had quite a few good receivers. He had Wallace. He had
Mhm.
Hines Ward and he had
Yeah.
Antoine Randall. That's who
Yeah.
he had
Yeah.
out there. And they
Yeah.
they were killing it. And you know, they were out there chucking the ball. But Aaron Rodgers, you know, he had Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, James Starks. But the star of the show was Jordy Nelson. You know, wasn't nobody
Yeah.
expecting that, man. Jordy
Yeah.
Nelson put up like 150 yards in the Super Bowl, you know, and they upset him, you know, and got that win. So I would say those are my two most memorable games. I did go to a game in Atlanta like 2 years ago, and they had the game won and lost on like the last play. that would and you know me, I was talking mad trash in Atlanta, dog.
Right.
And
Right.
them fans did not let me go. You know, they was following me all the way down the concourse, dog, razzing.
Uh,
But it was in good fun, you know. But
right.
hey, go pack, go, you know.
All right. And who, let me how would I phrase it? Who do you think is the best Green Bay team of all time? Your best. It doesn't have to be who
Woo,
the announcers think, but what team you think is the
yeah.
best?
Oh man. I would probably say, I don't know, man. They've had some really good teams. I think one of my favorite teams to watch was the Brett Favre team when he had Dorsey Levens in the backfield and they had Antonio Freeman. And at the end of the season, they went and got Andre Rison and they ended up going to Super Bowl. They played New England and they beat New England in the Super Bowl. They beat Drew Bledsoe. That was like Drew Bledsoe's last hurrah before Mr. Wonderful came along, you know. So
Right.
that was probably one of my favorite teams because that was the first time that Green Bay had won a Super Bowl since I had been a big fan of theirs. You know, they had played that New England Super Bowl. Brett Favre won it, and then
Right.
they ended up playing Denver the very next year. and they lost to Elway. Elway had Terrell Davis. Terrell Davis lit it up, rushed for like
Yeah.
160 yards or something. So they lost that Super Bowl. But that team that beat New England that year, man, was like the beginning of the new era for Green Bay. Not the Bart Starr era, not the Vince Lombardi era, not the Curly Lambeau era. This was the Brett Favre era, and then it transitioned smoothly into the Aaron Rodgers era, and it transitioned into the Jordan Love era. So I give props to Brett Favre for bringing that winning tradition back to Green Bay. And man,
Right.
title time just been off the chain ever since, 4 Super Bowls overall, 13 world championships. It's just, I don't know, man. Green Bay, just the team Green Bay is so different than any other NFL team to me in that fashion. It's just the history, the rivalries with Chicago and Detroit. Divisions have changed over the years, but Green Bay seems to always be there with Chicago, no matter where they
Right.
move and
Right.
that they just butt heads constantly. And shout out to Tony Pearson. I drive him every chance I get.
I'm gonna throw this question. We're gonna take a couple of more before we get out of here. It
All right.
says, as a Green Bay fan, I think he meant to put, you found out down the road that the Packers rebuilt Lambeau Field and added a retractable roof. Would you be upset? I don't see
I
that
would
happening. We just talked
I
about.
would not, yeah, I would not be upset. I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be upset because hey, all
Uh,
good things must come to an end, and
yeah,
royalties and the way these boxes are sold now, man, it's a matter of time, But Lambeau
yeah,
is just one of those iconic old football fields that you get. We went to SoFi, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
yeah,
SoFi
yeah,
was amazing, man. That
yeah.
stadium was ridiculous. And it's no Lambeau.
Right,
Lambeau is like old 60s style stadium,
right,
but to still pack that stadium and to be there in them stands, man, with all them fans going crazy and the Lambeau leaps and all that stuff. It's nostalgia. It's amazing. And it's just a great time. Green Bay
right.
just brings something different to the NFL, if you ask me.
Okay, and the last question I'm gonna have.
Mhm,
It's gonna be this. Who should I have on this show next? But before you answer, you have to
mhm.
help me get that person on the show. Who's the biggest
Oh,
fan that you know
man.
in any sport? And before you answer, you have to help me get this person on the show.
All right, we're going to do that. And let me go through these friend fans of ours. I would say, yeah, Big Kev, he's been on your show several times, so I'm not gonna say Big Kev, but he's the big Notre Dame fan, always
Right.
has been. Even when I bailed on him, Kevin stuck with him. So Kevin, I would say I'll tell you somebody that I got mad respect for because they ride or die with their team no matter what, and that's Marquise, man. Marquise is a huge Seattle fan. He knows the team, he knows the history, he knows the stats, and he rides for his team no matter what. Now they had a rough ending to the season here, but I think Marquise would be a great guest on your show, man. I really do. I
All
think
right. Well,
he'd
then
have a
you got to
lot
help
of
me.
good informative information, and I'm gonna
You got it.
definitely get him on here.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up for today. My name is D Hep with Zone of Sports. I appreciate Eric coming on the show. And you have a good one,
Appreciate you.
brother. I'll
All
holler
right,
at you.
you too, man. Hey, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, man. Get my man's algorithm moving.
Yes,
Appreciate you,
sir.
Hamp.
All right, there, bro.
All right, brother. I see you.
All right.